for Friday Features, and this week we're going to be talking about castle games. And I may or may not have chosen this because there was a new game out that I really wanted to play that had castles in the title. So I thought, what else can I find that fits this theme? I'm Amanda with Blue Highway Games. If this is the first time you're joining us, I kind of run down through about 5 games pretty quickly in about half an hour, give you a little bit of an overview on how to play, like a recommendation, and then these 5 games will be on sale through next Thursday, so December 10th or 11th. I should always look that up. But it'll be on sale for about a week at about 20% off. I do usually have a few followers in the chat. If there's any questions as I go along, I will try to keep an eye on it, and this will be uploaded to YouTube in a few days' time. So, as always, I try to pick some games that go for families, as well as 2-player or solo, and then some middleweight games, as well as one longer game. I like to start with the kids game, and for this week I have chosen Once Upon a Castle. Now this game, I've also picked out some pictures, so hopefully I can pull this up really quick here. That's a spoiler for later. Here we have a lot of the components of the game. There was even some cute, adorable drawings that were left in this library copy from the store from people who had played the game. But it is, as those of you who've been watching for a while come to know, one of my favorite types of games, a roll and write. But this is a roll and write for ages 6+. Oh, they say 8+. I think you go younger, especially if you get crayons involved. But there's 2 big chunky dice that you're going to roll that are going to have symbols on them, but instead of corresponding that directly to your sheet, first you're going to either be playing basic or advanced side of these player boards, but you're going to roll the die, match the symbols, cover them with tokens. Had in my picture of it, they're down on the bottom. You cover them up with tokens, and at any point that you fill a row or a column, you can choose to empty that row or column in order to then take what is on the end and draw that on your player sheet. Now you're trying to fill in your castle, you're trying to get walls, towers. The tower in the middle, which I think is called a donjon. I'm not really sure what that is. And then there's also bonuses for being the first to complete your castle, or the towers to get the sun and the clouds. And then there's also people that are going to come and be attracted to live in your castle. In the basic game, they're going to be just some... actually, when you build the towers is when you're getting those people. I think are just points that want to live in your kingdom. But there's cards that are going to give you direct points, or in the advanced version, the cards are going to be in a selected market. You can choose them to give you special abilities. They're going to kind of beef up your game a little bit, allow you to twist around little things. And the other fun thing is that if you are like, oh, that's a great kind of weird looking castle, you have the freedom to then also play on the side of the sheet that allows you to draw whatever shape castle you want. So bust out your crayons, ages 8+, I guess. For this one, it has an easy version or a hard version. I think kids a little bit younger could grow into it. And it takes about 20 minutes to play. We learned it over a lunch break probably a couple years ago now, but it's from Blue Orange Games, and it's a great little family roll and write, and it is about a castle. And the price on this one in store is normally $24.99, but it will be on sale 20% off for the rest of this week. It would be a fun holiday gift recommendation. All right, moving on to a game that should be familiar to most of you, so I won't even spend a whole lot of time on it. This is actually one of the oldest games in my collection, notwithstanding the ones I've owned since I was a small child, which are actually quite a few. But this I had before I even started working at Blue Highway Games, so this is like 14, 15 years old. This is the old version from Rio Grande. It's a different publisher now, from Z-Man Games. And I do have some pictures of that, as well as the one game I don't have here. So this is what it looks like now. That's the new cover from Z-Man Games. The art has changed slightly on the tiles, though not a whole lot. If you are not familiar with it, it is a tile placement game where you start out with 1 tile in the center of the board. You're going to add tiles as you go. And I have a couple of them here. In fact, my box is very full of lots of things and expansions. but you have castles, and you're going to need to place tiles next to each other so it completes features. Like your castles might be these big weird ones, or roads, that's just an open-ended road. There will be places where you can connect to the ends of things, and if you can wall off a city, a castle, or if you can completely create a road to connect between two destinations. There's monasteries that you place and you try to surround with other tiles, as well as farmers that will be supplying food to the different castles at the end of the game. So you're placing out tiles, you're placing out your meeples. I think this was actually the original game where the term meeple came from. We'll go with board game lore there. Place out your little people, your meeple, and it's going to go on those locations. You can't go on the same place as someone else unless you can kind of place tiles so that they come together after the fact, and they'll score you points for when you complete those different features. I didn't even practice talking about this, and I probably should have. It's just I played it 10,000 times. I've probably played this at least 100. And it is a classic game that if you haven't played it, you should probably just go pick it up. It plays really well with 2 players, all the way up to 5 players. If you get an expansion called Inns and Cathedrals, that's going to add in a 6th player. But the one that I'm going to talk about today, I didn't have with me, so I only have a picture. It is the 8th expansion. It's called Bridges, Castles, and Bazaars, and it is a one that specifically includes a castle expansion, because if Carcassonne wasn't enough of a castle, I wanted to make sure that I really hammered home that this is about castles. Well, I somehow covered that up. I'm so sorry. But those little castle tokens, they'd be punched out of that punch board, and when you create those little 2 castle connectors where it's just one little castle, you actually place that castle piece on top of it, and then your meeple goes on it, and instead of scoring the points for the castle that you just built like you normally would, you're going to score, sit there and wait until something around it scores. And when it does, you're also going to get those points. So you're hoping to get more than just what the little points it would have been worth as a castle, or a small castle, by placing the castle token on it, and thus allowing me to include this in this week's castle-themed Friday features. So that is the base game and the expansion, both of which are going to be on sale this week for 20% off. So we almost never put Carcassonne on sale, but it is going to be on sale this week, 20% off. It's normally $35, and the expansion is normally $17.99. So you'll be able to pick those up all week until next Thursday. All right, moving on. This game is another one that I also only have the old box for, so I did again. I know you love, this is like my PowerPoint presentation, it's so fantastic. It's a game called Castles of Burgundy. Now that is the new cover, it's very shiny. It was made to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the company Alia, which is connected with Ravensburger. And the game I have is a little bit older. I think it has a cute cover, and that one's very elegant. But this, I've always liked this. It's about building castles in the region of Burgundy, and you are trying to fill up your player board with these little tiles that are going to correspond to different spaces, and there's die actions that happen on the main game board as well as on your personal playing board, and you are all going to roll die simultaneously. On your turn, you take both your die and match them up with an action somewhere, and there are so many actions to take. It has a steep learning curve, but what I have always loved about this game, it's one of my absolute favorites, is that once you know all of the rules, it is so straightforward and streamlined, and you can make your decisions pretty quick. You usually know what you need to do. It's very fun to get the right number to be able to take that tile, but you can't just place it out on your board immediately. It has to go and wait. And when you roll the right number that matches the location where it will connect to another tile, so you can see the die numbers are on there, you'll be able to place out your tile. And then when you place out the tile, a bunch of other stuff happens, and it depends on what color it is for what happens. And it's a game that's been out for about 7 or 8 years. I have also played this one a ton. I have a lot of expansions crammed into this box as well, but that is Castles of Burgundy. That will be on sale this week. It is normally $49.95, and you can pick up that other boxed version, the 20th anniversary of Alia box version of Castles of Burgundy, which is only about 7 years old, in store all week. But the reason I picked Castles was because the new kind of, not expansion, not, it's sort of a sequel. It's sort of like the, related to Castles of Burgundy, is Castles of Tuscany. And I really wanted to play and learn this game to share with you because I was very excited about it. And it didn't disappoint. I had a ton of fun playing it. I am going to pull out a few pieces because they're quite a lot more colorful than the other game, but you instead of having kind of a big player board and having lots of die actions, there's cards in this game. And you're going to have like a little play area that's not numbered with the die because there's no die. And you are going to have to play down cards that match the colored regions to be able to place those colored tiles out on the board to be able to activate those to get actions. It is a little bit more streamlined. There's not nearly as large of a learning curve, but it is still quite in-depth. It took me about an hour and a half to play a two-player game. It played wonderfully as two-player. I have some pictures so you can kind of get a better idea of what I'm talking about here. Castles of Burgundy. There we go. Castle of Tuscany on the table. There's sort of the center board, but that's really just for scoring. And I'm going to come back to that in a second because that was one of the most unique features. But those are those little colorful tiles there on that bottom left-hand side of that picture. And this is near the end of the game. I filled it up with some of the different colored tiles that match it, as well as that little wooden token, which is sort of a wild that I got from building another one of those buildings. The tokens in the middle of the table there that have numbers in colors as well as a number below, those are sort of a race between you and the other players to try to fill up a specific color on your player board. And the first to do that will get more points than the second person. And you're going to get help, extra turns, workers that allow you to have wild cards. But the gameplay is quite straightforward. You're just drawing cards, so you get the colors you need, or you're taking a tile from the market, which I don't know if I have a really good picture for that one. Oh, that's just closer of the board. I guess not. But the tiles are out in a marketplace, so you're going to grab those, and then they're going to go wait on your board, sort of like the big game, Castles of Burgundy, before you can place it. And then when you have the right cards, instead of taking cards or taking a tile, you can play the cards to put down the tile. And now when you put down the tile, of course, like the other game, not base game, it's not expansion, Castles of Burgundy, you get some special bonuses. And they're printed right on your player board there. You're going through 3 rounds of the game. Each turn's really quick, but what's interesting is scoring. And scoring happens at the end of each of the rounds. I didn't get a close-up of that center board there, but there's an inner ring and an outer ring. Whenever you're scoring points throughout the round for completing little sections or big sections, you're moving on the green ring, which is one set of numbers. At the scoring phase, you take whatever number you're on in the green section and you move that down to the inner red section. So in the first round, if I had 15 points, I would then move my red marker during scoring to 15. Now my green marker stays where it is. I keep accumulating points. So in the second round, I've been moving on from 15 and I might hit 30. So in the second scoring phase, I would then add 30 to that 15 that I had from the first round. Again, that's on that inner circle there and that red one. And if at the third round, you guessed it, you're gonna add that again for a third time. So it's sort of a large scoring by the end, like a lot of Stefan Feld's, I'm assuming is Stefan Feld. I didn't actually even look, but it's a lot of points at the end. You have a marker that you can put in the center. If you go past 50, you can flip it over if you're going to go past 100. It felt a lot like if you were behind in the first round, you'd have trouble catching up. And last night when we played, Todd, my husband, he was quite behind in the second or third, first and second round. He almost always beats me in games. But by the third round, I actually did win by only about 3 points or something. So he was able to kind of catch up there in that third round. Not quite enough. So I did win, which rarely happens. But that is Castles of Tuscany. So this is a new game. And so we're going to even put it on sale. I don't know how many copies we've got in store, but it will be 20% off. It's normally $44.95, so it will be 20% off till next Thursday. All right, a couple more for you. The first one I have is the biggest one, the kind of the most dense. And if you were watching a couple weeks ago, I talked about Paladins of the West Kingdom, which was the second in the West Kingdom trilogy, the first being Architects, which came out a couple years ago. This is the third, and I had wanted this one for the solo, but I was impatient and didn't want to wait because it came out a couple weeks ago and we actually sold through. So then we got some back yesterday. So I was able to bring it home and ooh and ah over it and play it solo. So I'm not going to talk about that though. This isn't a solo one. This is just about the game and about castles. This is Viscounts of the West Kingdom, the third and newest in the trilogy of the West Kingdom. And like the others, it's a bit more complex, but ultimately it is a, well, it isn't really a worker placement. It's more worker movement. The board is a rondel, and somehow I have lost, oh, I have a lot on my table. It is a rondel, and you're going to be moving around the board, and it's a modular board, so you set it up differently every time you play. I have so many pieces. I'm so excited. Okay. Well, okay, first, there's a castle. Oh, sad. There's a castle that sits in the center of your board, and you are going, I, perfectly honest, didn't even want, I was very skeptical about this game because I heard it had a plastic castle in the center of the board, and I hate gimmicks. I'm like, I don't want anything gimmicky. This isn't gimmicky. It's very small. It just sits in the center of the board, and it has different pieces that you're going to put in there. Anyway, so now that I've dumped that on the table, I want to show you the board, which somehow I have buried under every card in the box. It is these pieces, and they're going to form a circle. It's going to create a rondel. There's different sides for the different number of players. And when you put them in a circle, this snaps right into the center, holding them all in place. And you are going to move your piece around the board. And if I can, well, I have a picture for you. There are arrows on that board, so you're going to be able to move only in certain directions. And, well, that's an overview. There are a lot of pieces. So there's the rondel sitting there around the castle. And let's see if I got... There we go. You can kind of see one of the sections of the circle. There's a horse there, and there's an arrow on a path. When you're moving around the board, you're only able to move to places in the direction of the arrow. So you're kind of constantly going in this clockwise circle. You're able to go up and down frequently because of several of the actions you'll need to make when you are in the top section of a wedge, or some you'll need to make when you are in the bottom section of a wedge. And the object is to move around the board, collecting resources that you can then turn into buildings, which are on your player board. I think I got a picture of those. There, on the top of your board, those little red tokens, those are my pieces that I'm going to need to place out on the board. But when I build them, you can see on the top, there's going to be some points. If I can clear out one, I would get 4 points in that left section, or 6 points in that middle section. If I clear out 2 from that middle section, I would get 13 points. By building them and moving them out, you also get benefits, which are the symbols that are on the board. The symbols below those buildings are sort of player reminders, so you know what your different actions are per turn. So you're going to be, the blue is kind of getting resources, the hammer is using those resources to build buildings, and the cross there is the writing of books in the monastery. I don't know if I got a picture of those, but I certainly have them here to show you. They are, you're writing books, and I like anything where it has to do with books. So this one, if you can collect sets of different colored ribboned books, little bookmark colors are different there. You'll get points at the end of the game. If you're the first person to collect, I think it's 3 of any one book, you'll be able to get some extra bonus points. And then if you are able to place your workers out into the center, you're also going to have some points for dominating the castle. Now, the other reasons you want to be in the castle are because it has some benefits that are going to be on that inner wheel, but you can't just jump into that inner wheel. You need to first bulk up your workers on the outer wheel before they're able to then kind of, I don't know, expand into the center, and then you're going to get some of those different actions on the spaces that you land, as well as then move around to different sections of the board. So it's a little bit of a puzzle to go along with the movement rondel portion of the game. And then, of course, cards like Architects, Paladins, and this one are also featuring the cards, which is where some of your actions are going to happen. Instead of having, I don't remember what it's called in the other two, but this one has criminals, I guess is what I call them, but they're wild, so they actually help you, but they can hurt you and move you further into debt, things like that. And this is where we come to one of the fun features is how the game ends. Is there's going to be both rewards, deeds that you can earn, and debts, just like the other two games, which are bad. You don't want debts. However, if you're able to flip either of those, you're going to get good points. You get even more points. So it'll improve up to 3. But these are counted out by player number, stacked on top of this card. And when you reach this middle card here, the game will end. And you'll move into the last phase. And then for the red ones, you'll actually score then for having the most flipped debt cards. If you go through the debt deck, you'll get points for having the most red cards. So you want to balance between the two. So getting debt isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you just want to try to flip those, or you are going to lose those points. So you're moving around the rondel, you're picking up resources, you're putting your buildings out to get more benefits and move in on the castle, and you're going to try to write books and collect sets of those and take over control of the castle, all for points. As well as yeah. So that is Viscounts. It's new to me. I didn't get a whole lot of I didn't spend a whole lot of time with it, clearly, but it did not disappoint. I was skeptical of the center plastic castle piece, but I'm glad that I ignored that and went ahead and got it anyway and gave it a try, because it is just as satisfying as the other two in the series, and that is Viscounts of the West Kingdom. It is also new, out now, and it is $54.95 normally, but it will be 20% off this week if we can keep them in stock. I know that's the problem with wanting to feature a game that was hard for me to get my hands on in the first place, but I think we did get some copies and we have some more on the way. So that'll be through next Thursday. Let's see if I can move all this without creating an avalanche. It's also very new and slippery. All right, the last one I have for you is going to be the one that I have here on camera. Let's see if I go, oh dear. I'm gonna hide all these. Go. The sneak peek you got earlier is the game Walls of York. I don't think it's technically a castle, but we're gonna go with it because it looks like a castle on the box. And you all are my friends and want me to not make a fool of myself. So Walls of York, I'm pretty sure we're gonna pretend this is a castle. And the way this game works is it's a very fast game. There's 2 rounds to the game, and the object is to wall off things in your city with these walls that match the king's decrees, and kind of cut off on the camera there. But there's 3 different things the king is expecting to see in your city. It needs at least 1 of the chapels. It needs 5 water wells, very thirsty king, and 2 huts, markets, I think. And those must be enclosed by walls before you can declare that your city is closed, and wait for other players to also finish off theirs for the round. And then you're going to score for having coins within your walled city, but you're also going to lose for having Vikings that are hiding inside your city, waiting to invade and raid you inside the walls here of your castle, because we're going with it as a castle. And the start of the game, everybody's going to have one of these boards, but it's modular, so I've actually already set it up. But there's 2 sides, and there's a color and an arrow. So I can pop it out here. And you would all have the exact same setup. So whoever sets up the first one would say, okay, the top right is blue with a black arrow down. Otherwise, it might be the white arrow facing this direction. But we're going to go with that. Everyone would set up their board all for the blue, the purple, the white, and the yellow, black or white side of the board in the exact same orientation. So everyone is on an even playing field. And then you're going to roll this die, which is a really funky die, and it is going to have a shape of a wall on the top as well as a coin on the bottom. Right now, you're not going to get any coins. Everybody's just caring about what the different wall pieces are needing to be built. So the die would be built. Everybody would then have to place the same formation of 2 wall pieces. So if I had that, and I'm looking out here and I'm remembering the things I need from the king, I can place these anywhere I want. And I need lots of wells. I don't want that Viking, so I'm going to go like this. You can rotate and orient this in any direction that you want on your board, but it must be in that shape. And then we continue on. And if somebody rolls and you place again, you might get the same things over and over and over again. But you're going to be placing them on these little intersections on the board in between the different squares. You're not allowed to go off the side of the board. You're not allowed to double up in the same area. And you can't, like, you know, none of this nonsense. You can't build a wall on top of a wall. So you're trying to place wall pieces and kind of continually, I don't know, maybe I would do this. Oh, but then I walled off the coins. That seems like a bad idea. I'm not really thinking through. And you keep going until you have completely enclosed the area. You're not allowed to have it completely enclosed unless it meets those 3 requirements. And so you'd have to keep playing. Once it does, anything in the center or the outside, you just return to the bank. There are a million of these little things. This is about half of what's in the box. And once my cities close off, everybody keeps playing. The die keeps rolling until everyone is done. And so you then start collecting coins from the bank, which is fantastic because coins are points. Whoever has the most coins at the end of the game will win. So you definitely want to finish yours as fast as you can, meeting those requirements to start collecting the coins from the die as it is rolled. I said it was 2 rounds. At the end of the first round, you would look and compare and take coins for all the coins that you have within your walled city. You would also have to take Viking tokens for each of the Viking spaces that you have covered up. And then you look and compare, and whoever has the most Vikings has been invaded. They're going to return all their Vikings but 1 to the bank, letting you know that you have in fact been invaded. It might be more than 1 player. And then you clear the board of the tokens, you re-roll these die, which I guess I should show you in front of this cool little dice tower. You drop them 1 in each. So it's maybe a little gimmicky, but it's cute, and it's only cardboard. It didn't take long to assemble. You do that again, starting with a new, I believe you use the same configuration of the board now. I'm actually blanking, but you build out again. And this time, whoever has the least number of Vikings after all that is also going to be awarded 3 coins. Then, for every one of your Vikings that you still have that have invaded, you're going to lose, I believe it's 5 coins. And so you really don't want to have been invaded during the game. And if you had least, you'd also get 3 coins. And then whoever has the most coins at the end of 3 rounds wins. So that is Walls of York. I think it was a game that got overlooked a few years ago. We played it a bunch at conventions because you can sit around with multiple people at conventions. You have multiple copies of the game. You can have lots of people playing. I believe the box comes with enough for 4 people to play. And it takes 10 minutes to explain. It takes 15 to 20 minutes per round. I mean, that's stretching it. We used to play it over lunchtime breaks, which are about half hour. So pretty quick. I would say families could do it. It's fun for adults. It says 14 plus. I don't think there is any reason I can't go younger, probably age 8, as well as a group of adults. And that is Walls of York, which is a castle, I'm sure. And it is $39.95 normally, but it'll be 20% off all week through next Thursday. So I'll take a minute to breathe and see if there are any questions in the chat. And also let you all know that we are still open at 25% capacity. You can come in wearing masks. We have been fairly busy on the weekends and have had to have a bit of a line out the store a couple times. But there are spaces on the ground so you can stay socially distanced while you wait, and we'll let you in as we are able. And then you can also, if you want to skip that, but you want some recommendations in store, you can call in for a weekday appointment to have somebody give you a call and spend up to a half hour with you on the phone, giving you recommendations from our website. And then you can place those orders for in-store pickup or curbside pickup if you don't want to pay for delivery. We also do have delivery and just keeping in mind that's going to be taking a little bit longer this time of year. I think that about covers it. So thank you again for tuning in. I hope there are some good recommendations here, and I hope you all have a good rest of your weekend. And yes, thank you for joining me too, Pinball Sorcerer. It's nice to see some people each week tuning in, and more of you I know are watching when we upload this later to YouTube. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful weekend.